You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, Chicago residents staged a sit-in outside the office of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's office at City Hall this week, demanding a meeting to discuss preserving affordable housing near the site of the Obama Presidential Center. Organizers are demanding 30% set-asides for affordable housing stemming from new development and for all redeveloped city land to be 100% affordable. Joining me now to talk about this is one of the organizers, Ashli Giles-Perkins of Black Youth Project 100 Chicago. Ashley, how you doing?
Hey, how are you doing?
So here's what's interesting. I remember when this has been going on for quite some time, and I remember reading a story either in the Sun-Times or Chicago Tribune where some of the Obama people were not too particularly pleased by saying, well, it's all these different organizations, you know, who do we sign community agreements with? You got the Woodlawn Association, you got others there as well. Right. You've had another group, of course, who's been fighting the center completely. They don't want them to touch Jackson Park, to do this Tiger Woods golf course and all the sort of stuff along those lines. And so with all of that, how are y'all trying to ensure that you're having sort of one voice, one mind in terms of dealing with this, as opposed to having this group and that group and this group and that group all vying for this project or this agreement?
Yeah, I would say that there is one group, and I would call us as the coalition members, as the Obama Community Benefits Agreement Coalition, and that is made up of, I'd say, 6 or 7 core groups, and then there are the allies, so other people that have signed on to the platform. So I got involved with the campaign through Black Youth Project 100. I'm one of the Chicago chapter members, and we are in conjunction with organizations such as Kenwood Oakland Community Organization, there's STOP, Southside Together Organizing for Power, Westside Justice, and a lot of other organizations that have been meeting, I'd say at this point, for 5 years.
Right.
This is the group that put together the original petitions. This is the group that helped to get the referendum on the ballots. This is the same group that has been meeting monthly, if not weekly, to write the ordinance. And through the work of nonprofit lawyers, such as Chicago Lawyers Committee, be able to introduce that into City Council, where it's been sitting now since July.
Folks, here, go to my iPad. Folks, this is the website called Community Benefits Agreement, CBA, for the area around the Obama Center. This is the website. As you heard Ashley talking, I click Coalition right here, and you'll see it. You see allied members right here on the website. Alliance of the Southeast, Brighton Park Neighborhood Council, Bronzeville Regional Collective, Chicago Jobs Council, Chicago Rehab Network, Chicago Teachers Union, Chicago Women in Trades, Community Renewal Society, Friends of the Parks, Indivisible Southside Metropolitan Tenants Organization, Reparations at U Chicago, Service Employees International Union, Healthcare Illinois, Indiana, Showing Up for Racial Justice, Southside Chicago Democratic Socialists of America, Voorhees Center for Neighborhood and Community Improvement at UIC, Wolfpack, Woodlawn Baptist Church, Woodlawn East Community and Neighbors, and of course, BYP100 as well. And Ashley, what's interesting to a lot of people is that here you have President Barack Obama gets his start as a community organizer in Chicago, and they're doing this. And as a matter of fact, I just saw that he's going to be, he was last in Chicago in October. Pretty much doesn't live in Chicago anymore. I mean,
no.
And in fact, was there in October. Is going to be back this weekend moderating a panel with 3 NBA players. And so it'll be the first time since he's been there since October. Have y'all been surprised at the unwillingness to sit down and do a strong deal, knowing full well that he was one of the very folks who was doing this work before he became president or before he state senator?
I wouldn't say surprised. I think that there were a lot of the organizers, a lot of the people that I've learned from are older. They are seniors, and they are part of these tenant associations, and they live in buildings where they don't have a lot of autonomy, and they are often displaced much easier because the entire building, you can displace hundreds of units at a time if you shut down an entire building or raise rents in an entire building. So a lot of the seniors were always kind of had a been there, done that attitude. People that were displaced out of Bronzeville, people that had been displaced from Hyde Park and Kenwood that are now in South Shore or now in Woodlawn, were prepared to come up with this Plan B option. Ideally, we would have wanted an actual community benefits agreement with the Presidential Center and the foundation. But what ended up happening is it's actually going through the city now, going through as an ordinance that is going to be fueled by the aldermen and alderwomen of the city. And so people were prepared to do that because in the past, developers have been unwilling to negotiate and honestly don't have to legally be beholden to the community. So we would hope that leaders like Obama and others would stand up. And I'm sure if he put his, hat behind it, it would have happened. But they were actually pretty resistant and said very clearly that, it wasn't necessary, that he trusts the Obama the foundation. They're a nonprofit, they're for the people, they're familiar with the area, and that essentially a community benefits agreement just wasn't necessary. And so no one in the coalition believed that. And so we were ready to organize and move people in different ways, such as the referendum, which passed at 80 and 85 and 90% in these wards where the people are most impacted.
And that's it. And look, I mean, I totally understand their position. Hey, trust us. But look, I spent 6 years working in Chicago. I ran the Chicago Defender, had first of all, a midday show, then a morning show on WVON radio. And the reality is black folks in Chicago have heard a whole lot, trust us.
Correct.
And then when it happened, folks got left out. And so I get the sense from these community groups, they're saying, damn that, put it down on paper.
Correct. Put it in writing. Yes.
What's next?
Well, there was an action this week. Essentially, the coalition, we are in an escalation stage right now. We introduced this, as I said, back in July. And to date, it has never been on the agenda in the Housing Committee. There's no way for it to ever reach the floor of City Council if it doesn't get through the committee. So we did some actions in the summer, such as having a kind of a walking tour with the housing chair, going through the area, walking him through the history, having them meet with residents and look at historical sites and landmarks that are within the region that would be impacted. We have been meeting with different groups. The city has been having meetings that we've been either invited to or maybe not invited to attend at all. And so at this stage, we have shifted to the mayor, who we believe has a lot of say-so in what can get happened and what can't happen. The city has responded with their own ordinance that they have introduced. It was going to be called up until the meeting that we had on Tuesday during the sit-in. There was a sit-in just this past week in front of the mayor's office at City Hall, and essentially residents just demanding to be heard, not really in support of this city ordinance. There's a lot of things missing from the ordinance. Some of the most crucial things, such as different set-asides, some of the things that they did put in, like tenants' right of first refusal, is nice on paper, but if people don't have funds for it, it's not as effective. We really feel that city land should be set aside affordable. We believe that some of the terms that the city is using, affordable is in air quotes, and really when you look at the median income of the area, it's $23,000. And the city has set their base at $40,000. That's already a huge gap, and for that to be the minimum, and then for them to base rents off of that price, it's already unaffordable for people who are currently living there. And we know from some of our coalition partners, such as Chicago Coalition from the Homeless and Chicago Teachers Union, this impacts students as well, students that are homeless, students that are beholden to what happens in their neighborhoods because they have families that live there. And so we're just really escalating because this is immediate. It's winter time and people are being displaced.
All right, Ashli Giles-Perkins, BYP100 Chicago. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, I want to introduce my panel, Erica Savage-Wilson. She, of course, with the Savage Politics podcast. Also, Dr. Greg Carr. He is Chair, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University. Reese Colbert, Black Women's Views. All right, folks, let's do this here because actually I want to combine the discussion with Lee Saunders and AFSCME and this discussion. I mean, this is what organizing is supposed to be about.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're going through their aldermen. They have a specific agenda, specific requests, and that's how you try to get stuff happen. I mean, at the end of the day, the city officials are going to put forth their own thing, and that's going to pass or not pass based on the pressure that these folks put forth. But I think this is a prime example of the importance of actually having skin in the game and getting in there and trying to advocate in a number of ways, not just protesting, but actual partnerships with elected officials.
And look, bottom line is their whole deal, this whole idea, you know, trust us is like, nah. I mean, it might be Obama, but no, we ain't playing that trust us game.
No, and Obama knows better than this. He made his bones in so-called community organizing. But the history of this country is the history of urbanization and suburbanization. Yeah. I mean, post-World War II, you see decisions by city planners like Robert Moses in New York to say, we'll work in the cities and live in the suburbs. That's when they plow through many of these urban areas with the highways that displace many people and create these things. And now they've decided to reverse the trend. Now we're going to live and work in the city. There is no plan in urban planning for the people that are being represented here. And the only thing they have to fight back with is their bodies. Right. BYP has done some remarkable work over the years. They're in Baltimore, there are other places. And it's wonderful to see this tradition in Chicago open up for a new generation because $60,000 to $100,000 a year is not affordable housing for people who are struggling day by day.
And look, Erica, bottom line is here. I've said this consistently. If anybody wants to question that, I got receipts. I said point blank, just because Obama was elected does not mean that certain things will get done. We have to push those things. And I think that for far too many of us, we were the only ones who stayed at the inauguration parade for 8 years. Everybody else left. We were still just in awe of a black first family. And the reality is there were things that African Americans did not advocate for and push President Obama to do like other groups did. What these black folks and others in Chicago are saying is, look, we love you, that's great. The idea of this presidential center, they see what's going on. It's going to be development all around it. They know it's going to mean housing. It's going to mean businesses. This whole idea. And look, I'm a golfer. I played at Jackson Park. It needs to be improved. So to have Tiger Woods coming in talking about, hey, I'm going to develop in the city this 18-hole championship course. People who are golfers there, especially a lot of the older golfers, don't want to be priced out. Having to pay $80, $90 a round. So you have to figure out, you know, what do you do for those folks as well? But I'm with them. No, you got to put this on paper. We ain't just going to sit here and play the trust us game.
Absolutely. And then we also have to look at, too, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act, right? That opened the door for opportunity zones. So you had governors that said, listen, we're designating 25% of our lands to whomever would like to come in with their capital gains tax and make an investment, right? So what I love what these groups are doing, because this does show the power of grassroots organization. This does show the fusion of that, also with protests merging together for people who are about doing the work, as when you spoke with Mr. Saunders. And that's what's important. You know, people thinking that Twitter, social, all these other platforms is a form of activism. Seeing what these young people are doing, seeing what Black is doing, that is actual activism. It is a 7-day-a-week job that actually is embedded in the community and it informs people. And what I found interesting about all of this as well is that when you're talking about being priced out, I'm thinking about that gentleman that was interviewed a few weeks ago when they were actually excavating the homeless from K Street, who said that, listen, if you don't have 80K, you cannot afford to live in D.C.
Exactly.
In this piece that you sent us, Roland, you're talking about there was a line that said lower income people being folks that are making 60K and below.
Exactly.
For 60K to be considered lower income, there is definitely something for everybody to do in this moment in time. And I'm just going to continue to say it every day. everybody, welcome to the civil rights era of your time. There is a lot of work to do.
Come on, Eric.
And a lot of feet and a lot of hands and places to go.
And that's why what Ashli is doing with Block is important because again, you know, and people say, okay, you say this sort of stuff, but no. Look, I've taken the time not just to listen to a speech or see a quick video. I go beyond the Black History in 2 minutes videos that Skip Gates is doing.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and I've
sir.
actually taken the time and said, no, how do you study the movement? Like literally reading. Y'all, if y'all go to YouTube, I want you to go and watch my interview with Dr. James Lawson. It was Dr. Lawson who was the one they were behind the Nashville movement. And what he said was this here. He said, we spent 3 months solely discussing why we were doing this.
Right.
Then they spent 3 months discussing what we wanted to do.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
Now, today, groups get together,
That's what you said.
and within an hour and a half,
Right.
a website's already up, a Twitter account's already been open, and then all of a sudden we can call this person, we can align here, let's throw this event, all in the first hour and a half.
That's right.
But the reality is, you have to be thinking long term, and that is the thing that when you study these movements, when you study, okay, what are we going to do on Saturday, but what's going to happen on Monday, then Tuesday, then Wednesday, then the following 2 weeks? How do we now get allies? How do we now build this? And I'm telling you right now, if they are not doing what they're doing, you're going to see massive expansion
No
Right.
on the south side of Chicago.
No question.
But I need people to understand also when y'all, because I think they're also part of the problem when y'all hear South Side, is you have to understand this as well. See, this is why I need a whiteboard. This is why we need a whiteboard.
Yeah, you do.
So I'll just use so what you have is you've got downtown Chicago right here. You've got Bronzeville right here. Then you go from Bronzeville to University of Chicago.
Right.
Okay, some of y'all missed that. Downtown Chicago, Bronzeville. All this is South Side. Then you skip over to University of Chicago. So you have all of this massive development around University of Chicago. You're like,
Right.
No
whoa,
question.
what I just come into?
No question.
And then you start saying, okay, so what's in between Bronzeville, University of Chicago?
Yeah.
And then what's beyond University of Chicago? And then how does stuff look? And that's what's happening here.
Yeah.
So what they don't want is, they don't want this Obama Presidential Center to actually, essentially, be connected to the University of Chicago, and all this other stuff in between gets left out.
Right.
They want, because if you study in Jesse Jackson Jr., and this is, again, I don't care what nobody say, I spent time with him, the brilliance of Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., O'Hare Airport.
Right.
The reason he was fighting for that third airport on the south side of Chicago is because he understood how that airport drove development in a 50-mile radius.
Exactly right.
That's what O'Hare did. This presidential center, world leaders will be coming in.
Oh, yeah.
No question.
Yep.
Where will they be staying? Where will they be visiting? Where will they be eating? All those things that go along with it. Thousands upon thousands. You look at the Smithsonian Museum here, National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Yeah.
I mean, the most visited
Yes.
Smithsonian Museum in the nation's capital.
Yeah.
Right.
I can guarantee you, when this presidential center is done, it's going to be huge amounts of traffic. Where are they going to sleep? Where are they going to eat? All the different things on those lines. And these folks are saying, don't price us out. Don't have a whole bunch of $200,000 and $300,000 and $400,000 condos.
Yeah.
Right.
And then now you're basically forcing us where we got to go to south suburbs to go to Harvey and all the rest of these places
Further downtown.
in the area.
Yeah.
That's what they're fighting for.
That's right.
And I would too. I lived in Bronzeville. I had a condo in there for a couple of years before I moved out here. And I saw that it was redeveloping. I saw white people walking their dogs on the street, and I said,
Right there.
oh, shit.
Right.
See right there?
Right.
When a white woman is jogging alone,
Yeah.
your neighborhood has changed.
Or it's mostly
No,
It
I'm
was
just
still
being
No, it's the truth.
It was still transitioning.
And it was a brother who had a home there for 40 years who told me that. He said, Roland, my neighborhood has changed. I was
Yeah.
like, why? He said, white women are jogging alone.
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
alone in Chicago.
Damn.
But that's where the wrinkle comes in, because on the opposite side of this activism that you have of people not wanting to be left behind, you have homeowners.
That's right.
And they want to cash in too. They don't want to have their property values depressed. I'm not defending them. I'm just saying this is the reality. This is the other side of the coin. And that's what makes it that much more challenging to try to convince homeowners that this isn't a zero-sum game, that it's not a, well, you can, if things are affordable, then that means that I lose. So that is the big battle, and that's the battle that the aldermen are going to have to do and the city's going to have to go through. So that's what always makes these sorts of things challenging. And what ends up happening is the homeowners don't necessarily win, and the people that are looking for affordable housing don't win. The developers win. The wealthy people who aren't even in the neighborhood,
Yep.
and they come in and they cash out.
Which is also, Greg, what I also wish, and this is, and I've said this. I remember when I did the State of Black America discussion for the National Urban League with the unveiling of their report, the Howard Theater 2-3 years ago. I said on the stage, I'm tired of talking about gentrification. I said, I'm literally tired of talking about it. I said, the question is, when are we going to see folks create black real estate funds
Yes.
that can then, like, if we know, okay, what's available. I mean, there was a brother, it was a husband and wife in Atlanta. They did a crowdfunding campaign. I think it was called the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. And I'll pull up in a second. It was a crowdfunding campaign. I believe they raised $9 million in 7 days.
Wow.
And the whole point of that was to acquire, yes, it's called the People's Fund. The People's Fund, and I remember that because I was like, yo, and that was what it was. They were like, yo, we can either keep talking about gentrification,
Right.
or we can say how we pool black dollars, start buying our own land, our own communities. Greg.
Yes.
No, that's critical, and we may have missed the mark, or maybe too late in some places. Detroit, for example, where you see them basically colonize downtown. But you're raising something, and when you were talking to Brother Sanders earlier, you mentioned Ella Baker. It's critical to understand. Ella Baker really enters this conversation in the 1940s through the Urban League and then through SCLC, organizing people to control their own destinies. But when you talk about something like this, and Reese, you say that because the black community is no longer that segregated community where we moved as one because we had a collective agenda.
That's
I mean,
true.
Horace Caton and St. Clair Drake wrote a book that's very important. In fact, they really kind of start urban sociology for black people in some ways around their book Black Metropolis, which is the history of Chicago. But it was segregated then. When you mention the fact that you got black property owners that are like, wait a minute, hold on, because I'm getting ready to get paid. And well, what you're seeing is a class fracture. And so, you know, Roland, when you mention that, when you talk about Ella Baker, or when you come forward, talk about those 2 million unregistered Latinos in Texas, these young people now and these other people in coalition are turning toward the dispossessed, because what the dispossessed have is numbers. It may be that they can't make a real coalition with these black folks who are now looking to profit, not because, you know, because they don't want them to help, but there is no collective identity.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is, in turn, when you talk about what you just brought up in terms of this community kind of ownership and taking possession, it's got to come with a consciousness that somebody like a Jim Lawson helped people understand. Community land trust, cooperative ownership. This isn't about individuals owning real estate because that's still a model of profit.
Right.
Otherwise, finally, what's going to happen, what's already happening in Chicago, is what has happened in Detroit, what's happening in my hometown in Nashville, what's happening here in D.C. They will displace the poor into the suburbs and continue to use them as a reserve labor force for service jobs. But what will happen there is those ghettos, those hoods are going to be reproduced outside the city limits. And that's not even speculation. That is what has happened in Europe. That's what's happened in Latin America. That is the future of urbanization, displacement.
Right.
Absolutely. And just throwing, when you said individuals and moving as collectives, that has to be something that we have to really come into a consciousness of, that is what it is, because and just going back to the teaching piece, if there is not something that people are willing to connect with, to understand that there are things that have already happened that we cannot catch up with.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the fund, that is what we're seeing these conglomerate groups under opportunity zones, which is gentrification on steroids, coming in and buying up communities to say that these are poor communities. We're going to come in and we're going to create a community whereby, you know, people who live here will have a better quality of living at the, you know, fine tune of $1,000 a month for rent. But they're making these decisions with little input for the community. So I think that the two things that have to happen is that the individualism has to die, that collective piece has to raise together, and then that there also has to be an appetite for the model of teaching so that people understand that these things do not happen at the same speed of technology, that they take time. And the more that we hear things, the repetition, understanding the language, then we can move at a place where we actually do see some gains.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, are you looking to enhance your leadership or that of your team in 2020? Well, you can join Dr. Jackie Hood Martin's newest online course and mastermind group, How Successful People Think. It is a John Maxwell endorsed class. She'll be your guide as you learn timeless leadership principles to apply to daily living. Offers expires February 28th. Register or start the online course today, www.live2lead.com/Leesburg. That's live, number 2, LEAD.com/Leesburg. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.